The supply side spark I told you about in the Morgan Stanley video, this is it. It's happening in real time. Meanwhile, New York was handing out commercial driver's licenses to people who weren't even legally allowed to work in the country for more than a few months. They found drivers using expired visas. They found drivers with no valid work authorization, and the state gave them an 8-year golden ticket to drive a truck anyway. Shippers in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York are about to find out that their cheap capacity just got revoked. For months, I've been telling you that the FMCSA was going to start auditing states. I told you that the non-domiciled CDL loophole was about to be closed. Well, the audit results for New York State just came back, and they aren't just bad, they are criminal. The federal government has officially labeled New York as the worst offender in the entire country when it comes to issuing illegal commercial licenses. According to a bombshell report released by Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy and the FMCSA, New York State has been handing out CDLs like candy. They reviewed 32,000 non-domiciled licenses issued by the state. Do you want to know how many were non-compliant or illegal? 53%. That's more than half. That is nearly 17,000 drivers on the road right now pulling 80,000 pounds next to your family who, according to the federal government, should never have been given a license in the first place. On this video, I'm breaking down exactly how New York was cheating the system, the massive ultimatum Sean Duffy just gave them, and why this might be the single biggest supply shock to hit the East Coast freight market in a decade. And welcome back to the channel. I'm Marcellus with Trucking with MBR. We talk a lot about the trucking reset on my channel. We talk about how removing bad actors raises rates for the professionals. Usually when we talk about bad actors, we're talking about sketchy carriers or double brokers. But what happens when the bad actors is the state government itself? Secretary Duffy and the FMCSA administrator, Derek Bars, held a press conference in New York, and they didn't mince words. They called New York's action a systematically, grossly unacceptable deviation from federal safety regulations. So how were they cheating? Here's the scam. A non-domiciled CDL is supposed to be tied to your legal presence in the U.S. if you have a work visa that expires in 6 months. Your CDL is supposed to expire in 6 months. But New York, they were blindly issuing standard 8-year licenses to people who only had temporary permission to be here. They found drivers using expired visas. They found drivers with no valid work authorization, and the state gave them an 8-year golden ticket to drive a truck anyway. Administrator Barr said they found numerous examples where New York relied upon expired documents. Let that sink in. You have to jump through hoops to renew your medical card. You have to worry about one bad inspection ruining your safety score. Meanwhile, New York was handing out commercial driver's licenses to people who weren't even legally allowed to work in the country for more than a few months. This is exactly why rates have been in the toilet. You aren't just competing against other drivers. You are competing against a ghost fleet of 17,000 drivers in New York alone who are operating on borrowed time. I want to take a minute to explain why this matters so much for the freight market, because I see some people in some comments saying, oh, it's just paperwork. And it's not just paperwork. It's about insurance and liability. Think about what happens when one of these 17,000 drivers get into a wreck. If their license was issued illegally, their insurance company is going to deny the claim immediately. They will say the driver was not legally qualified to operate the vehicle. So who pays? The carrier pays. And if the carrier goes bankrupt, the costs get passed on to the rest of us in the form of higher premiums. Now, we are all paying for New York's mistake. Every time your insurance renewal comes in and it's up 20%, remember this audit. It's because the risk pool is polluted with drivers who shouldn't have been there. And think about the domicile rule. The whole point of a non-domicile license is that you are supposed to be going back home. You aren't supposed to be running point-to-point freight inside the U.S. indefinitely. By giving these guys 8-year license, New York basically told them, don't worry about the federal rules. Stay as long as you want. Drive whatever you want. They artificially inflated the supply of drivers, which artificially suppressed the rates that you got paid. But here's the good news. The party is over. The FMCSA has ordered New York to do 3 things immediately. Pause issuing any new non-domiciled CDLs, audit every single one of those 32,000 files, void and rescind every license that was issued illegally. And if they don't, Secretary Duffy dropped the hammer. He said if New York doesn't comply within 30 days, the DOT is going to pull tens of millions of dollars in federal highway funds. This is not a polite request. This is a threat. Duffy explicitly blamed the previous administration for this mess, saying that Joe Biden did not enforce the law and turned a blind eye. Whatever your politics are, the results is the same. The federal government is finally enforcing the rules that are already on the books. So what does this mean for the market? If New York actually complies, and with millions of dollars on the line, so I'm sure they will, we are looking at potentially 17,000 drivers being pulled off the road in the Northeast region. That is a massive capacity correction. Shippers in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York are about to find out that their cheap capacity just got revoked. Duffy tried to calm people down by saying he doesn't see this impacting holiday shipping. But let's be real, you can't remove 17,000 drivers from a single region without rates filling it. And it's not just New York. The article mentions that similar crackdowns are happening in California, Minnesota, and Washington State. This is a nationwide purge. The supply side spark I told you about in the Morgan Stanley video, this is it. It's happening in real time. If you are a carrier or owner-operator running in the Northeast, keep your eyes on the load boards. When these revocations hit, brokers are going to be scrambling. The ghost capacity is going to disappear, and the phone is going to start ringing for the guys who are actually legal. But also protect yourself. If you have hired anyone with a non-domiciled CDL from New York, you need to audit their file today. Do not wait for the letter from the DMV. If their license gets voided while they are under your load, that is your problem. Look, the spot market is going to be volatile while this shakes out. If you want to get away from that chaos and lock in consistent, dedicated work, you need to look at Final Mile. I have already done the research for you. My Final Mile contract plug pack has a direct contacts for companies that are hiring legitimate professional contractors right now in your area. Stop competing with the 53% who are cheating. Go where the contracts are real. The link is in the description box below. This audit is about vindication for every American driver who has followed the rules while watching the industry go down the drain. New York got caught, the feds are watching, and the reset is accelerating. Let me know in the comments, are you surprised the failure rate was 53%? Or did you already know it was this bad just by looking out your windshield? Make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you don't miss the next video. Also, check out the video on the screen below where I talk about my biggest mistakes I made in trucking and the lessons that changed my business forever. And once again, this is Marcellus with Trucking with NBR. I'll see you on the next video.